Welcome to the YouTube channel of R.J. Starr, existential psychologist, professor, author, and host of the syndicated podcast, The Psychology of Us, with Professor R.J. Starr. This is a space for those who think beyond the surface, who question the patterns of human behavior, and who seek a deeper understanding of themselves and the world around them. Here, psychology isn't simplified into trends or quick fixes. It's an exploration of identity, meaning, and the forces that shape our lives. Every video is an invitation to challenge assumptions, expand perspective, and engage with the complexities of the human experience. If you're ready to move beyond the ordinary and into the profound, you're in the right place.
You've probably been in a situation where a group made a terrible decision, and you wondered, how did that happen? Everyone was smart, experienced, thoughtful, and yet, somehow, things went completely off the rails. Maybe it was a work project that failed spectacularly, a political decision that defied logic, or even a group of friends convincing themselves that a bad idea was actually brilliant. This is the psychology of groupthink, when a group of people, despite their intelligence and expertise, collectively arrive at a decision that is flawed, irrational, or even catastrophic. It's not stupidity, it's a psychological trap, one that has led to some of the worst disasters in history. What's fascinating is that groupthink doesn't just happen in government offices or corporate boardrooms. It happens everywhere, in families, on social media, in academic settings, even in casual conversations among friends. And once you understand why, you start seeing it everywhere. Let's talk about why this happens, what's actually going on in the mind of someone caught up in groupthink, and how we can protect ourselves from making the same mistakes. What is groupthink? The term groupthink was coined by Irving Janis, a research psychologist at Yale, in 1972. He was studying high-stakes decision-making and noticed a troubling pattern. Smart, capable individuals were making shockingly bad choices when they were in groups. It wasn't that they were reckless or uninformed. Instead, they were so focused on maintaining group cohesion and agreement that they ignored warning signs, suppressed doubts, and ultimately made decisions that they might never have made on their own. A classic example is the Bay of Pigs invasion in 1961. President Kennedy and his advisors planned a covert attack on Cuba, convinced that it would succeed. There were clear warning signs that the plan was flawed, but no one spoke up. Dissenters either stayed silent or were dismissed. The result? A humiliating and costly failure. The Challenger disaster in 1986 is another case study in groupthink. NASA engineers knew that the O-rings on the space shuttle were vulnerable in cold temperatures, but under pressure to launch, concerns were ignored. The shuttle exploded 73 seconds after liftoff, killing all 7 crew members. It wasn't a lack of knowledge that doomed the Challenger. It was the collective silence of those who knew better. But you don't need a historical event to see groupthink in action. Social media is a breeding ground for it. Have you ever seen an online controversy spiral out of control, where people blindly follow the crowd without questioning the facts? That's groupthink at work, everyone reinforcing the same opinion, dismissing dissent and doubling down, even when it's clear that things are getting out of hand. So why does this happen? What is it about groups that makes us abandon reason and fall in line even when the stakes are high? Why does groupthink happen? Groupthink thrives under specific psychological conditions. The first is group cohesion. When people feel deeply connected to a group, they don't want to disrupt harmony. It's human nature to avoid conflict, especially when we care about the people involved. If speaking up might make you the outcast, silence starts to feel like the safer option. The second factor is strong leadership. When a dominant leader presents an idea as the best or only path forward, group members hesitate to challenge it. This is why bad decisions often happen in hierarchical environments, corporations, governments, even classrooms. If the leader signals, even subtly, that dissent isn't welcome, it disappears. Then there's time pressure. When people feel rushed, they're more likely to go along with whatever seems easiest. Psychological studies have shown that decision-making quality plummets under time constraints because the brain shifts into efficiency mode, prioritizing consensus over careful evaluation. And finally, isolation from outside perspectives. When a group operates in an echo chamber, cut off from dissenting voices, it becomes convinced of its own infallibility. This is why cults, extremist political groups, and certain corporate cultures can become so entrenched in faulty thinking. There's no fresh air, no external reality check. Psychologically, this ties into confirmation bias. We seek out information that supports what we already believe. It's also linked to pluralistic ignorance, where everyone assumes that others in the group agree, simply because no one is speaking up. Even if you're quietly questioning a decision, if everyone else seems confident, you start to doubt yourself. The result? A powerful illusion of consensus, where doubts get pushed aside and the group marches forward, sometimes straight into disaster. How to recognize and prevent groupthink. The good news is that groupthink isn't inevitable. Some of the best decision-making teams in history have deliberately designed their processes to avoid it. One of the most famous examples is the Cuban Missile Crisis. Unlike the Bay of Pigs disaster, Kennedy and his advisors encouraged open debate, sought out opposing viewpoints, and deliberately structured meetings so that no single opinion dominated. The result was a carefully measured response that likely prevented nuclear war. So how do we avoid falling into groupthink ourselves? It starts with encouraging dissent. When leaders or groups actively welcome alternative viewpoints, they create space for critical thinking. This can be as simple as assigning a devil's advocate, someone whose job is to challenge the dominant perspective. Psychological safety is another crucial factor. Research by Harvard professor Amy Edmondson has shown that teams perform better when members feel safe enough to express their concerns without fear of embarrassment or retaliation. If people are afraid to speak up, they won't, no matter how wrong things feel. Another strategy is seeking diverse perspectives. If everyone in the room thinks the same way, blind spots are inevitable. Bringing in outside voices, consulting experts, or even just asking for anonymous feedback can break the cycle of conformity. And finally, slowing down decision-making. When groups have time to reflect, reconsider, and gather more information, they're less likely to fall into the trap of rushed consensus. Deliberate decision-making often feels slower in the moment, but it dramatically reduces the risk of catastrophic mistakes. These are small but powerful shifts. The simple act of asking, "Are we really thinking this through?" can be enough to disrupt the groupthink pattern.
Thank you for spending time here on the YouTube channel of Professor R.J. Starr. Psychology isn't just something to learn, it's something to live. Every insight, every question, every new perspective is a step toward understanding yourself and the world more deeply. If this video challenged your thinking or sparked something new, stay connected. Subscribe for more, share your thoughts in the comments, and continue the conversation. Until next time, keep questioning, keep growing, and keep exploring what it truly means to be human.